Welcome to late IHP Show with your 5D mystic Maria. We had a very beautiful live today. If you didn't catch it, well, it was really great to meet all of those who did subscribe from it and who got to hang around and watch the chit chat and learn about how, yes, enlightened ones and spiritual ones. We don't need pats on the back. We don't need emotionally reassuring anyone's, and we definitely don't look for people to validate us. And in the meantime, we got a good couple of questions, and I'm pretty sure we had some trolls around, but that's where, when you're an empowered, enlightened human being, which means confident, you have a good time, because really, it's amazing. So the person that sparked this conversation made a very valid question. No, not really. I don't know. It depends. It depends what the intent was, but it's okay, because when you have a person who's like, wow, you know what? You make a valid question, because that's how it feels. So what you want to know about this human being who's your host: I'm an inner child who's a functional adult, and I love to learn things. And so you can try, like, I don't notice when people are trying to do things. I don't get jokes. And I've learned how to just have fun with it, because people say, you're so sensitive. I'm still sensitive. I'm just not sensitive that way anymore. In fact, as Michael Yapko points out, when do you really have a person? What defines someone as someone you can no longer relate to? I can't actually find. Yeah, wait. Okay, well, I still wouldn't do the let me cancel you. So that's where I was thinking of the donkeys from Pinocchio's Island. Definitely, we got 3D, 4D out there. So 5 ways to avoid spiritual bypassing and doing mindful mindset and lifestyle practices ineffectively, as well as avoiding to stay in the limited consciousness timelines of 3D, 4D, who believe in devils, demons, evil, Knievel, medieval, and don't like bringing it all in, especially those who think that when you say the word guru means automatically it's a cult. No. And anybody who thinks that we are in the world of right or wrong, black or white, okay, look, the right or wrong thing, what's right, always grows you and our society, means humanly speaking. Science grows society, proves what spirituality already knows, doesn't disprove God. It disproves, for sure, demons, devils, evils, because all the people who are of the brain that does not have a fear receptor that works effectively are the ones that are 3D, 4D, and they actually have solutions, which is why I had a good conversation on our live with the person who said, so how does it work with schizophrenia and bipolar? I said, look, for the group of people, there's medicines, and the good doctors are still learning. And then there's, for borderline personality and narcissism, Dr. Daniel Fox, who's awesome, with a lot of different toolkits and how to help each other. And then, so I gave them all the answers of why devil, demons, nope, none of that. We all have the angels out there, all human beings. And the ones who want to keep the devil, demons, evils alive are the same ones who shame on them, for they had monsters in their home, and now they're just doing the self-righteous contempt baton, and they're saying that they want to point that other finger. So this is why it's not about an in or out group. There's only kind human beings when you have enlightened ones, spiritual masters, and that is why gurus, and any word you want to use, you can bring it on, but it ain't going to be a cult unless, and here's why the question is a good one. So one, spiritual bypassers, they are the ones who think that a person like me is fake. And as in the lovely live, we had a great conversation, as one of the people mentions, but you can't be positive vibes with what's going on. I said, okay, so this word right here that you put, I know about it because that's what I give off, and I'm a ventral energy. It's not about positive vibes. It's called that spiritual masters, enlightened ones, gurus, prophets, you name it. Just bring it all. Angels, we're all angels. And we're bringing it all in because thank you, Dalai Lama, for telling all those religious people, hey, come on, we're all the same page. We want compassion because that's what intelligence is. And anybody who's not yet intelligent is not a future human. So you don't want to be here because, again, I'm a future human. That was one of the first downloads, besides it's my human makeup, but also because you can be you, as lovely people mention. What's his name? Let's see. Dr. Schaefer, it's never too late to come home to yourself. When people are securely attached and non-traumatized, like the person you see right here, we have fun, even when we get called a dude. And it's so cute. I loved it. My life was amazing. I had a lovely interaction as two human beings who stuck around. They enjoyed the conversation. I enjoyed my conversation. There wasn't only two of them. There's a bunch of them. But I was very honored to be defended by somebody. And I said, no, we're having a good time. You didn't come in when we were chit-chatting about this name that they go watch the live. I'm not going to give it away. So I actually really loved also, again, the question, the person who says, but you just mentioned a guru and a cult. How do you have a guru without a cult? And I said, well, no, wait, let Google help us. Because I don't know the answer to that question in the right way, because the left mode needs the right way, and I don't do. And in fact, I said, look, I use words wrong. Give me a minute. Let me get some help, because the child inside of me is like, what the heck is, no. I was having a good time because I knew the question, and I knew, no, guru and cult aren't always one and the same. And I also know George Eliot mentions, it is never too late to be what you might have been. Yes, so when people get their body in connection, you get a whole self, and you own the sense of self, so core, relational, narrative, and soul self. And that means all your child parts are asleep. You don't have self-righteous energy and contempt and telling people there's devils around. Someone came and took, again, up the fence to say, someone's being a devil. No, it's okay. We're okay with people asking questions. We even have people say, I want it to be a world where it's about feels right. I want it to be a world where it is right. And I say, yeah, I would love for them to start taking care of our air and, our water and our food. But apparently I have not the power. And so, as Sadhguru points out, the moment you think you are above everyone, your mind becomes a barrier. So that's why I had mentioned Sadhguru, and the person's like, but that's a cult leader then. I'm like, nope. So a guru, AI overview in its traditional sense. And then someone asked about shamans and monks. And I said, look, just put them all in the pile, because we were talking about spiritual and enlightened ones that are not spiritual bypassers, who continue to want to use monsters and in and out group superheroes and supervillains because they think only they are the special ones and that the other ones are not. And that's why it immediately gives it away. They're playing God, like, immediately, because they're like, no, science is wrong. People cannot physically heal from their trauma stuff. That's essentially what they're saying, which is why when someone says lack of imagination for evil, you think, wow, no. No, you lack the education of neuroscience, neurobiology, mental health, Stephen Port polyvagal theory. You disregard, I don't even know how many different subject matter experts, and you particularly disregard the ones who mingle and tingle. So I love the lives because it gives me the opportunity to sit down, think, and then say, okay, so number 2, you get or have secure attachment, and you learn to be in a body in connection. That means I'm social always, which I was having, again, a good time. And that's because I'm anchored in venture energy. So I explained, I said, look, this looks like positive vibes, but I am a wellness mindset practitioner who offers free, paid, and live content to say, look, if you use your mind, it's amazing, but your behavior, it's not the behavior. It's the biological rude behavior that needs first therapy. Then once you're a biologically aware person, now we have a human being who is in their prefrontal cortex. So now we have the people who like to talk about themselves as enlightened ones, but they don't know how to enlighten frequency. And so Zen master with laundry. Again, laundry, no, you have tears. It's different. And so here's what a functional child adult can do when we get upset. This is what happened. This is my story. This is what I feel about it, and this is what I would like for us to be able to negotiate and talk about, and then I can let it go. And that means that even if I'm not going to be able to help myself to make friends with you, I won't cast you away, and that's where we can be friends. We can be heroes. We don't need heroes. God's got everything taken care of. So those of faith, spirit, source, Akash, enlightened ones, they will all know this. I'm explaining it the human way, which is, yes, we have good and yes, we have bad, but really philosophers will tell you it's not that straightforward, because the only ones who think in black and white thoughts are, again, the ones who think they're above everybody else. And that's a self-righteous, contempting, whatever little butthole that needs Patrick Tan, not me. So the focus on guiding disciples, a guru in its traditional sense can exist without a cult, which is the answer to the human being who said, but a guru can only exist with a cult. No, it he, she, they can exist without a cult by, drumroll please, remember, enlightened ones and spiritual masters and influencers and every single one of those channelers out there, and people like me, mystics, mentors, content creators, podcast hosts, Reiki master, Akashic record readers, hypnotherapy, bring it all in. We're not predators. The predators, and people who like to use, again, those big words, are the same ones who ignore that we got a bunch of therapists who are unhealed. And they might not be defined as creating cults by those human beings who want to say guru will create one. And again, I don't do words like that, because the straitjacket of the left brain is that they're not noticing that their way of trying to come in with something is, but then again, is it? That's why it's good to be emotionally mature, because see, that's what I get to do with my prefrontal cortex. I get to say, okay, there's no agenda. I'm actually curious. That's why I'm an emotionally empowered spiritual master. And it does still sound like ego is like this cocky. That's because they gave a bunch of people names in a time where they were needed. Today, what is needed are the real ones for the ones who are 5D, of course. Then we have 4D, 3Ds. Continuing, they dishonor their inner child, but we do forgive. I forgive all the grown-ups who are still monsters. And they're creating, no, not monsters, because luckily science wins. Because human species evolves. Neuroscience, neurobiology, mental health. The basic biology of every one of you is cellular. You're not going to stay ignorant, because even the people that fish know about mindfulness mindset, and they come to me and they actually follow along because they love, and they live and they laugh and they learn and they expand. The 5D collective, as lovely human being Safrel, I always forget how to pronounce it, but on TikTok live shared, we will call to each other the frequency we are. So I enjoyed, again, the live, because the question is a good one. 3, get emotionally mature through compassion of your own self, first of all, especially while you're suffering. So it's not positive vibes, as I mentioned, it's ventral energy. Wellness mindset industry people, the real deal, say, look, you think I'm positive vibes only. What I'm trying to explain to you is that my frequency and my brain work optimally. If you want to get here, then you start using words that are in neutrality so that you can explore the suffering with compassion, because you don't have intimacy with yourself if you don't know how to have self-compassion. And then you have to have it for others. That's the kind intention. I don't have to have kind intention. I can neutrally say, it's not about decency. Oh my gosh. And that's why I have fun with even the most emotionally immature, biologically, quote unquote, rude person. I feel bad. I can't feel bad. No, I'm not afraid. I'm not afraid of any pettiness. I don't. I'm only going to be alerted to one thing. And it's happened twice. I'm out in a pub. I'm a 4'9" woman. I get up. Can I leave? Yes. No. Okay. Shit. I guess I'll have to stick around. So physical safety, my gut will tell me twice. Yes. Don't ask me. But luckily nothing happened, so that's good. But other than that, I'm like, oh, look, I'm having a good time. So again, a guru in its traditional sense can exist without a cult by focusing on guiding disciples towards self-discovery. If you don't own the sense of self, if you're not your whole self, if your child parts are still upset and you're not tending to them, you're not going to do self-discovery. You don't have a self yet. It's not a verb. It's a facade, fake self. So that's one. But then we also have spiritual growth. And yeah, you don't have access to your soul's mission until you figure out who you are, humanly speaking. But you can dress up and then make up a lot of other stories to make yourself feel special. And that's why the self-righteous ones, they think, again, no, it's not that they think, it's that we do have the word predator and cults out there. I just don't use any of it because, again, it's not black and white. And when I do see docu-shitty series, I just think, wow, you're spreading pop culture again. So we're going to still have the masses, Schopenhauer. If you want to appeal to a large audience, appeal to the sheep masses. I'm a sheep too, but I follow the smart ones, so I don't hang around the idiots. That's exactly how I handle anyone. No, not really. I'm letting you all know so that way the ones who think I'm an idiot, great, ciao, see you later. And this is egoic? No, it's really, I don't have time for the ones who want to twist shit. And I'm looking to build a good community of smart people, because really the other ones slow us down. Lives are great because I get to meet the people, they get to meet me. Here you get to still do the same thing. And again, I do have an ego. She's right here. But she's not ruling me. I get to keep myself in check with empowered masculine, empowered feminine, and people that point out. And I say, look, I hear you. I'm just trying to, make sure they know who they are dealing with. with that being said, our 3-year-old egos, our 16-year-olds, all of our child parts are handled, and that's why we can say, I don't like you right now, but on our lives, of course, we're again having fun. So it was a really great show. And 3, as I said, get emotionally mature through compassion of self and others, and that's where we're avoiding to be spiritual bypassers. We're avoiding to be any of those who would be the gurus that the human being who was pointing out gurus and cults, and people think about predators. Well, it's people who are unhealed and need a therapist. So again, it's very clear because a guru will focus, a mystic, a monk, a spiritual guide, one, not patting you, but allowing themselves to guide you towards self-discovery, be a whole self. You have secure, attached, great, integrated brain, check. Emotion mature, check. Now that we have the right sides of neuroplasticity, so it's not positive vibes, wellness mindset, it's I'm an integrated brain with a body in connection. I'm a whole self. I own my sense of self. Now that I'm myself mindfully, I can stay grounded in reality with flaws, imperfections, and integrity, and know that not everyone will like me, and that people, because I'm a mystic, enlightened one, using words the way that they don't, they just will say that's an ignorant person, that's a blasphemy, that's a this, that's a that, and that is something that I dealt with as a teenager, because those are the egos. I'm like, what are you doing? If you wanted to do research, you could have went to do the research like Stephen Porges does. In daily life and ascension days, we use inner growth mindset practices mindfully. Today we had a free 3-minute with anger. We have a 5-minute and 15-minute with anger for our paid subscribers. The link is below on Spotify, or Spotify for podcasters. And so that's for those of you who use mindful communication skills with the inner growth mindset, and that's because you have mindsight skills. Dr. Daniel Siegel's words. So you sift mindsight. You sift sensations, images, feelings, thoughts, because you own the sense of self. And so you enjoy also feeling and thinking, which is why I enjoyed the live and explaining that no, cults and gurus don't come together. Spiritual masters or spirituality and religious figures who are the real ones in the year 2025 are full of compassion. Know that the Dalai Lama is right, and we all have different ways to God, like the book I'm a co-author of, The Ways to God. I have God with Christian, Catholic, good catechists. And then I have people who, unfortunately, I'm going to just have to leave it alone, because they don't know that Jesus said the kingdom of God is within every one of us. And today I mentioned a couple of different places how, yes, God can be, but it wasn't God in and of himself. And people who like to just think that we're all egoic are the same ones who like, yeah, we all have ego, but if you're having fun, you're going to get curious and ask more questions. So if you're trying to, go in with an agenda, that's okay, because empowered people don't actually notice that, is what I was also trying to say. So the true guru, like the true mystic, spiritual figure, and anyone who is going to be a guide for people who use mindful meditation, mindful mindset, mindful all, are the ones who know body and connection is your health. And that's why good stress, and also that it's your mental health. So true gurus emphasize transparency, mutual respect, and individual empowerment. So they don't talk to you about evil and good energy and bad energy. They can talk to you about the embodied brain. They can talk to you about how an integrated brain is a default mode network that is downregulated. That makes me a conduit. They can talk to you about the whole sense of self. My 1-year-old, if she wants a hug, I'll give it to her. But I don't say, oh my God, that person offended me because they believe something different than I do. They're wrong. I'm right. Devils, demons do exist. So, again, we can have a philosophical conversation about it, because we all have meaning and not meaning. And we all have books and not books. And then we have science who continue to prove things. And so with that, again, true gurus, all of those figures for spiritual growth and personal growth, mindful mentorship, all of that, they will seek to be as transparent as can be, as I do. And again, ego right here, but it's not in a way of, I know everything. It's that, yeah, I have ego, I have self. They work together, and as a team, mutual respect. I accept, respect, and love all the people who joined me. They shared a moment of their life. And that's the truth. Doesn't mean I enjoyed all of it. Well, if you're trying to say I'm wrong in a mean way, that's not nice, but that's okay. I'm grounded in reality. Everyone has different beliefs they're going to hold to their heart. I love you, God. Science wants to say God doesn't exist. I'm like, yeah, he does for me. You don't have to believe in him. I'm pretty sure he's not going to force you to, because, and you're not a monster if you don't believe in God. You're just another person. I would want to say I feel bad, but I can't, because that's not respectful. See, I would be a judger, and spiritual masters don't judge, because we all know, like the smart therapist, that all of you can become your securely attached whole self. So Individual empowerment, yes, the true guru. This is exactly what I'm trying to say. We handle, like I shared, it's not positive vibes. Yes, the world is going through a lot of shit. It's called ventral energy. If you want, you can do it. You don't have to. You don't have to put inner growth mindset into practice. You don't have to put your body in connection into practice. You don't have to become a master of your anger, your fear, and your sadness in a grown-up way. You don't have to do anything, happiness, surprise, disgust. You can continue to say, I have a right to be angry in my emotionally immature way, but they won't use those words. They're going to say they're right, right? So that right, wrong is a losing strategy for those who don't know how to say, it's okay, we're different. Tomato, tomato. And so individual empowerment, encouraging followers to think critically and develop their own understanding, which is why true gurus, spiritual masters, and enlightened ones don't deny the science that proves everyone who will heal will be in an awesome body because they have heaven in the body. The kingdom of God is within you. Thank you, Jesus. They will also turn, Jesus says, I will turn daughters against their mothers and sons against their fathers. When you're a differentiated self, you can't spank me. It's my body, 3-year-old Maria. And then I correct, that's my mother, who then spanks me, and I go make my suitcase, and then I don't leave. And the biological father, I wait 3 times because I hear the wrong name. But I'm waiting because I got told if you can't say something nice, don't say anything at all. And I say, I'm Maria by the 3rd time. And that's called a differentiated self, which is why you got an inner child, ego, 3-year-old right here. But when I don't like something, I'll be able to be honest about it and be like, look, I don't like it. But not on lives. On lives, I have fun because I'm actually trying to share information. So I thought it was a really good question. And that is why I used AI to answer it, because they was quick to answer. Otherwise, he would have left and then I wouldn't have been able to answer. So true gurus emphasize transparency, mutual respect, individual empowerment, encouraging followers to think critically and develop their own understanding and a sense of self that is whole wants that. They avoid manipulation, coercion, although we all manipulate, but the manipulation with the intent are the 7 to 14 or the 9 to 16, not charming for me, but they're on Michael Stone, forensic criminologist, the evil scale. So when someone says, but Maria, you don't believe in evil? Yeah, not really. I believe that people who are emotionally immature have a role, which is that they do things and then they get followed around by other spiritual bypassers and not enlightened ones who think that they are right and anybody else that is not in their group is wrong. And so again, I noticed they hang around each other, Diego's family. So no, nobody is evil in the way of the philosophical religious textbooks because they all have names and they're human beings who were 1-year-olds. 9 to 16, yep, they are with psychopathic traits, grandiosity, superficial charm, and goodness and manipulativeness. And they are liars and they lack remorse, callousness, and some are also... Yeah, that is actually funny because when you have a good gut, you don't fall for bullshit. Just so you know, that's also why confidence is badass. So when people get their whole self, they'll know how it feels to notice what is physically threatening and then to actually not notice anyone who is emotionally not yet mature. Because the adoptive child part is Cusco. Remember, Cusco is who those people who don't move into the 5D collective and future human stuff because they'd be like Cusco, remember when he spites Pacha the whole way? Just watch The Emperor's New Groove. That's exactly what they all are, one way, shape, or form or another. So a true guru avoids manipulation. Yes, we like to tell you things the way it is, and then when someone says, I won't pat you on the back, it's okay, I'm not looking for approval, and I'm the pseudoscience woo lady because I learned from smart human beings, and I spot the pseudo-intellectuals and make fun of them. And also the pseudoscientists who don't understand why I'm okay with science calling us that. Because again, they're not dismantling our stories. They're giving us answers, and the stories can stay, but they don't need to be what you use to demonize and dehumanize human beings who are on their way to getting health, and help. By Patrick Tian, who lets you know you can't raise your frequency and get rid of childhood trauma. That's not how it works. I'm trying to send him to you, Patrick Tian, but we'll see if they'll choose Boca Raton again. So people who are cult leaders, they don't avoid manipulating, coercing, and creating a dependency, the creation of dependency. Okay, so true gurus avoid manipulation, coercion, and the creation of dependency. Unlike cult leaders who often isolate followers and exploit them for personal gain. Isolation is important, exploiting them, but also being flexible about it, because this is the part of where some people will just take a person who's building a community and say, oh, look, they're doing it, they're taking their money, and that's exactly why it's not nice, but it's understandable. So the enlightened ones, spiritual masters, actual religious figures who are also enlightened with science will say, okay, here's what we want, a more detailed breakdown: transparency and openness, mutual respect and consent, individual empowerment, focus on spiritual growth, and I'm going to add personal growth. Doesn't forget that you have an ego like everybody else, and doesn't forget about the self, and mentions it to you so that you can be an open heart and process stuff and forgive in time and all that other stuff. Not the family. The family is the first step. You first heal your inner child, then you become aware of all that stuff, and now you have emphasis on critical thinking. You can critically think because you can use left and right together. Ethical conduct. A guru would embody, yes, ethical behavior and prioritize, yes, the well-being of their followers. Exactly what I'm letting you know. Everyone can be in a positive vibe. Yes, it's not a positive vibe. It's called your ventral energy, but you don't have to believe me. I'm not the sciences. I'm the woo pseudoscience who's letting you know restorative embodiment resilience. It's really amazing with my mindful mindset, inner growth, communication skills, the ones that I created from my personal experience. Anyone not know how professionals work? I mean, we do learn the basic foundation, then we create it. I'm still part of this, even as a downloader and channeler. I'm like here. So, you know, people will say, but Maria, there's peer channels. Yes, they are still with their selves as part of it. If they deny that, they're denying the truth. That they have implicit, explicit memory biases that come with their name, and that they have however many years of age, and their first 16 years of life, and the first 3 actually have no words that come up all of a sudden. So they will seek to guidance, not control. A guru provides guidance and support, but ultimately the disciple is responsible for their own journey and choices. And that is why the adaptive child part person, the devotees, they don't like this. Nope, the devotees, they like to pat each other on the back. They reconfirm what they already will have learned. That's through tarot, Akashic record readings, through hypnotherapy, through anything. You're going to notice the difference between those who are expanding and those who are saying, we are a group. I'm a healer, and I told them, how dare you trauma dump? Don't you know the dark night of soul has to be full of... So there's a very specific way pain points get dragged around, which is why it's not very fun. And there is an article on Reddit, or no, they ask how to tell between gurus and cult leaders. Again, very straightforward, guidance, not control. Ethical conduct, emphasis on critical thinking, focus on spiritual and personal growth. They will have you become individually empowered, and they will have mutual respect and consent. Transparency and openness, that's the ones in the enlightenment soul age group. I'm going to have to break that one down because those who are of the spirituality soul age group have a whole different way that they go about. So the part about cults or predators or any of those words, when people use them just to throw them around, it's because they don't know maybe who people are. You know what I mean? And they've heard it. So pop culture. So let's just remember not to divide things up in black and white. That's actually very easy for empowered people. It's only hard for the ones who don't know how to use two sides of the brain, and also an open heart. And then to remember neuroception explained by Dr. Amy Apigian. People who have a body in their survival mode, it's not that easy. They have a long journey ahead of them. The Biology of Trauma podcast, as she explains, some people will have gone to therapy and they're still actually years after therapy working to get out of that. So it's up to the person if they want to become their true self, and that's if they choose, then they will do integration. They'll be able to also allow secure attachment to take the lead. And so again, it'll be something that we continue to discuss. And just as we close on out, to reiterate, for mystics, spiritual, mindful people on a fulfilling life and soul's journey, the 5 ways that I shared with you today to avoid spiritual bypassing, ineffective mindful mindset and lifestyle practices, and staying in limited consciousness timelines of 3D, 4D. 1, get a whole self and own your sense of self, the core relational narrative and soul of self. 2, get or have secure attachment and learn to be in a body and connection, meaning social with all, even the ones who might not want to be social, because ventral energy is off-putting to some. And so that means you're anchored in ventral energy. 3, you get emotion mature through compassion of self and others. So that's why we work with anger, sadness, fear, happiness, disgust, surprise, and we work from our prefrontal cortex. 4, this is when we're using the bright sides of neuroplasticity with an inner growth mindset. So neutrality and duality once you're ready for it. And that will be easy for you know exactly how you're working through your own stuff. And that's because it takes that practice. And as you continue to integrate and use your ventral energy, the good stress, you're going to notice a difference. And so then you're settling in the restorative embodiment, and then you continue creating resilience. And then you work with anything that still comes up, like my panic attacks. So those can be related to our spiritual expansion and light body, because besides our emotional body, we expand the window welcome, our energy body expands as well. And 5, therefore, be yourself mindfully and grounded in reality with flaws, imperfections, and integrity. So that means some people won't like us. They're going to call us names, and they're going to continue to believe their stories. And, you know, you're not going to do anything because good intentions are not enough. It takes the right action performed at the right consciousness to produce the necessary results. And neuroception is what determines people's responses to everything in any moment of their life. It is not based on reality, it is based on their perception. It is not willpower or motivation, it is their body's security system asking, am I safe or not? Thank you, Dr. Amy Apigian. So when someone had a first 3 years of childhood trauma and or whatever else has taken place, there's an answer, and it's not a demon. It's a monster from their own home, their own stuff, and they didn't heal it. So let's leave it alone, because seriously, the future humans already know the kingdom of God is within us. Thank you, Jesus. The seed of enlightenment is within us. Thank you, Sadhguru. In daily life and ascension days, you use inner growth mindset practices mindfully with mindsight skills. If you enjoy feeling and thinking, become a paid subscriber. Not only do you support the channel grow, but you add to your daily practices, and we're going to add to content over time. It is 5D Mystic points of views and stories on mindfulness, educational podcasts, being yourself. So you get exercises, readings, and spotlights. And when we have subscribers, you're going to get notified when I go live. I get to look at spiritual and personal growth opportunities like I just did on our live today, but even a little bit here. They come with our ascension energies, our overall daily life matters, and our relationships. And that's for the people who are future humans using an inner growth mindset, even if you don't use those words, using mindful communication skills and lifestyle routines focused on mental well-being. And that's in the positivity, neutrality, and duality. So again, not because you're always positive, but you have self-compassion and compassion while those things that have adversity and that are afraid, threatening, okay? So you know how to be in the prefrontal, emotional resiliency. So focused on mental well-being, emotional resiliency, and physical wellness, which means the ventral energy mastery. So thank you for stopping by again, bringing human, spiritual, and spirituality elements, sciences, and more to look at human evolution, consciousness, you being yourself, and how it reveals the way to life and reveals the way to the heart and the way to God. For those who want to talk about consciousness, in fact, sciences is looking into it really great. And actually, wait, I have another tidbit that I'm going to tell you about before we go, and I got to review this one with our lovely live community. This man, what's his name? Christoph Morin, PhD, talks about a lot of things. So I'm only going to read part of it, and it's on Essentia Foundation. You can go read it. He shares, I believe, so I'm quoting him, we are approaching a new paradigm, one that integrates the empirical rigor of science with the introspective depth of contemplative practice. He says this is not a return to mysticism, but a reclamation of what science originally aimed to do. Describe reality as it is, not just as it appears through a limited lens. So he's saying science is expanding. And so science and spirituality, they do and are coming together, which is what's really touching and amazing. A unified field model of consciousness does not require abandoning rationality. It requires expanding it. It means allowing room for experience, for mystery, for the possibility that awareness itself precedes form. It invites us to see healing not just as recovery, but as remembrance of who and what we truly are beyond conditioning. And so that's his message. And lovely Dr. Daniel Siegel also shares when he tells me in one of my classes, 97% of what is going on out there is unavailable, he says, for scientists to observe. We can only make our best guesses and guesses. And he shares how John Donohue told him what a mystic is, which is someone who believes in the reality of the invisible. And so Dr. Daniel Siegel is like, well, we kind of believe in the same thing. And, you know, at the end of the day, that's where the sciences and spirituality community, we come together, we use words, we have fun, and when it is with people who don't enjoy this. We understand cognitive dissonance, structural dissociation. It's not something fancy. Self-righteousness, not fancy again, but it's not a monster. It's people who have a destructive mindset, yes, and a body that is not looking to explore beyond that which are the 5, 20, or 10 stories and books they have, but above all, their self-righteous little fist of I'm right and you're wrong, because that's exactly why it's a losing strategy. For they don't come in with I want to chit chat. They come in with I'm right, you're wrong. Then they come in and start building. So that's the difference of an interaction. But when you're empowered, you don't actually treat it like a argument, because that's not what's happening. I'm just interacting with a person who has a different belief system, and therefore, because I'm also in my prefrontal, I recalibrate and I'm enjoying myself in the interaction. And you're going to have a good time. The other person we don't know, or group, but that's what makes the 5D collective and spiritual masters and religious leaders and anyone who is an enlightened one, including our secular whole sciences, integrated brain, flow state people, able to walk into a room, have a good time, and leave, and they don't use any kind of it's kind firmness. Thanks, Terriel. And sometimes it's silence, and sometimes it's laughing, and sometimes it's none of it. But at the end of the day, join us again. Subscribe, paid and free, and on YouTube, TikTok. You can get alerted when I go live. We're going to have some more for sure. I'm having a good time. Thanks for stopping by. Have a good one.